Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first day of the farmers market this year. So good to see everybody. Hold on to this. Just hold on to it. Well, this is a beautiful day. I remember last year it was quite a bit colder, and there wasn't as much produce here last year. It's amazing to come here and see asparagus and ramps, beautiful giant morel mushrooms, and all of our favorite vendors here today, and a lot of new vendors also. So I am joined here on stage with my daughter, Josephine. Hi. It has been our tradition for the last few years that she starts the market with me and finishes it up with me. And it's a pleasure to have you here, darling.
Thank you.
Well, first off, we have to thank Nash Brothers Trading Company. They have been a really huge supporter of us here at the Mill City Farmers Market. And they help us do things like this. They help us do these demos. We have enough money to make samples for you and buy produce here at the market and sample it out. So really want to give a big thanks and shout out to Nash Brothers. We are going to be bringing out some sparkling blood orange juice, which is one of their fabulous juices that they have. And you can look online, NashBrothersTradingCompany.com. I think it says it in our beautiful poster in front there as to where you can buy all their products. Also want to thank Brenda, Aaron, and Martha here who work year-round to make this market happen and make sure that everything comes off with a hitch. They get here early in the morning, get everybody in, get everybody out. So I want to give a thanks to them.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also want to give a big shout out to my new kitchen manager this year, Jillian, who shows up much earlier than I have to, sets up this kitchen, and helps me out with everything I need, along with the volunteers we have every week. So thank you, Jillian. And also, we have to thank our farmers and vendors and everybody who showed up today. All the wonderful things they do for us, all the growing that they do all season long, the foraging, all their animals that they take good care of, so we can appreciate all that they make for us. So thank you to all the farmers and vendors who are here today. Great to see everybody. So it's Mother's Day weekend. What does that mean to you, Mother's Day?
It's a special day to celebrate moms because all the hard work they do.
Thank you. And it's a good day for me to appreciate you for all the good work that you do. And coming here with me on stage.
Well, you're mostly the thing that makes me food, gets me to school.
This is true. So, Josephine, what are we going to make today?
Asparagus soup.
Do you like asparagus?
No.
But you like asparagus soup? It works out okay for you? Well, we have some really great things that we found here at the market today. We're getting that juice out to you, and we're going to be handing out some recipes to you in a moment. If you do not get a recipe, you can look at millcityfarmersmarket.org. All our recipes for this upcoming year will be on there as we go through the season, and all of our recipes from the last seasons are there. So it's a great resource, and you can also sign up on our website for our weekly newsletter that'll always let you know what we're going to be doing each week, what we're going to be making, and all the other great activities that we have here at the Farmers Market. So I got some really lovely asparagus from Prairie Hollow Farm. They have two different kinds of asparagus, a purple one and a green one. And the one thing you want to remember is the purple ones, when you cook them, they turn green. So a lot of people get really bummed out about that. And also from Pam, I got some leeks. And for this recipe, I just really wanted to find as much as I could here at the market today. So I've got some leeks, some potatoes, and in the recipe, I always put a little bit of... Are you handing it up?
No, people are just trying to take pictures.
Oh, they're taking pictures, but you're smiling. That's good. So, Josephine, let's talk about our process here of how we're going to start making this wonderful soup. What's that? Stand up so they can see you a little bit.
We are going to talk about, we have a program at my school of, the lunch ladies, they just get some, like, vegetables or fruits, and then they put it in a little school comes down there to get, like, the teacher, let's say, a teacher asks one of the kids, a responsible kid, to...
A responsible kid? Would that be like you, maybe? Yeah.
To go down to the lunchroom and take the bag back up, and then, like, yesterday there was sweet peppers, and I didn't like them very much.
But what else have you had? So I don't know if everybody will follow, but it's a new program that her school is starting, and there's 7 different schools in the district that they're trying this fruit and vegetable program. It's kind of like what we've done here at the market with the Meet Your Vegetables station, where...
And so far we've had peppers,
pineapple,
sweet peas, pineapple, no, snow peas, pineapple.
And what do you find, what do most of the kids do when they try these things?
Mostly they just, some of them say, I do not prefer this.
Really? Do they really say, I do not prefer this? That is so funny.
Well, you want to just try it before you say you don't like it. Because if you actually try it, you might actually like it.
That's right, that's right. And that's what we try to do here at the demo kitchen, is find some different things and make food in maybe a little bit of different way that people aren't used to. So I want to talk about what I'm doing here. I chopped up some of the leeks. I think it's a lot easier to wash the leek after it's been cut because leeks acquire a lot of dirt within its leaves. So I chopped it up really fine and I'm just swishing it around in a bowl of water. I'm just going to lift them out of the water because all the sediment and dirt will fall to the bottom. And earlier, I made a vegetable stock out of all my trimmings here. The bottoms of the asparagus stems went in my stock. Some of the potato peelings went into the stock because the starch from the potato peels will give the stock a little bit more body for your soup. And the leeks, even the carrot tops and some carrots went into the stock. And I cooked that for about an hour and a half on a low boil. And so that is going to be part of the basis of our soup, is our lovely vegetable stock that we made. So Josephine, if I can have you peel this potato for me. Yes. I got a new lapel mic, so it's kind of fancy pants here. You got to make sure it works out okay. All right. So I'm just going to start my stock here.
It's a little hard doing this.
And I got some olive oil in my pan here. And I'm sauteing my leeks with a little bit of garlic. And I always like to add salt to the onions. Okay. Yep. She's very thoughtful process for peeling the potato. Do you remember one of the first times I had you peel a potato? What happened? Do you remember what happened? You peeled some of your skin off too. And the recipe does not call for carrots. So again, I wanted to keep it fairly simple, but I saw these beautiful carrots at Prairie Hollow Farm and I was so excited to see new carrots already. I mean, again, it's been an early season, so there's all these great things here already. So I'm just going to throw a few carrots into the soup also. And we're just going to chop them up. And I'm chopping up all my vegetables pretty fine so the soup will cook faster. But this is a pureed soup. So keep in mind, if you're making a soup that you're going to puree, you don't have to worry about all your vegetables looking nice or being the same size or being very small because you're going to puree it anyways. I can get the rest. I can hand this out to somebody. I'm done with that. Thank you. Tricky on that board, isn't it? But I tried to pick out a really big potato for you to peel. It's a little bit easier that way. easier when it's smaller. Alright, gonna put my carrots into the soup here. And now the asparagus, what I like to do when I'm prepping asparagus, now this is really big, fat asparagus, but you'll be surprised at how tender it is. Even the bottoms are quite tender. But what I want to do is I just want to snap it like that, and that's basically its natural, up on top will be the most tender when you snap it like that. And then I just put these in my stock. I typically wouldn't use asparagus stems in a vegetable stock if I wasn't making something with asparagus, because I think asparagus has a very distinctive flavor. So let's say you were just making a potato leek soup. If you put asparagus stems in it, that might take over a little bit. But for this purpose, since we're making an asparagus soup, the asparagus stem stock really flavors the soup. And for the recipe, I called to save the tops. Oh, question. I do not use the stems, I just use them in the stock. Yep, just in the stock. Yep, because otherwise they're really tough and you would have to cook the soup for quite a while to get them to break down. And so you can save the asparagus tops for soup if you want to garnish it. It looks really pretty. But for today, I'm not going to do that. One, I didn't have enough for everybody to have one, which would be a bummer because I would have to have at least probably 50 stems for the top. So I'm just going to put those right in the soup. And instead for a garnish, I'm going to do goat chev that I got from Singing Hills Dairy over here. And I got their chev and I just added some fresh chives to it, and that's going to be our garnish. Because this soup, the recipe, I'm not putting any milk in it or cream. You can always put almond milk or rice milk to get it to be creamy, but I'm going to leave it without cream, but I'm going to garnish it with the goat cheese because it's kind of fun. You can swirl that in, and it's nice and tangy, so it brings out the flavors quite a bit. So I'm going to cut up these asparagus stems. A lot of people ask me if I peel asparagus. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on how long I'm going to cook it for, how tough they might be. For instance, these asparagus that I got today, they're very tender. So I would probably leave them all together. How's it going there, kiddo?
Okay.
Oh, we got your mic on. I'll just turn it off until you need it. Alright, so I'm going to add my asparagus to the soup. And the one great thing about, I got my stock that's been making and the stock is hot. The soup is going to cook a lot faster because if you add cold stock to it, you have to wait for it to come up to temperature up to boil to cook the soup. But once I put my warm stock in there, it'll go quite quickly. I'm going to strain my stock into here. Hopefully it won't spill too much. If you're making a soup like this and you've got your stock and you've made too much stock, you can always put it in ice cube trays and freeze it. You could add it to some pasta, add it to rice, cook rice with some of this stock if you wanted to. Alright. And I'm actually going to add just a little bit more water to it. So I didn't quite have enough stock. Does anybody need more soda out there? Did anybody not get a blood orange soda sample? If you guys want to do another pass-through, or even if you've had one, you can have another. We have a lot of that lovely soda back here. Alright, how are we coming along there with that potato? Add that little carrot in there. And the chives, I wanted to show you that the chives have blossoms on them. These are edible and they make a really pretty garnish. And what I did, if you want to do this chive flower for me, what what you can do is you just squeeze the bottom and kind of pluck the tops out, and you have really pretty purple flowers that you can put on your soup as a garnish. So I'm going to have you, Josephine, do that to some of these. And I'm going to cut up this potato. And I'm going to try to cut these up pretty small just so my soup cooks quickly so we can get samples out. You can pull it out. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to really go through everything today, but I do know that, you can just set it aside here. This is our compost pile. Jute Salon has sponsored a plant a flower for your mother over in the corner. So if there are any kids who have not gotten to plant their flower today, it's free. You can pick from a beautiful array of flowers and plant it and give it to Mom for Mother's Day. And I have noticed too that if you haven't gotten anything for your mama yet for Mother's Day, there's a lot of really cool things here. I do know that they've got some really neat aprons with different flour sack logos, which would be a really fun gift. All right. So Josephine, here. Why don't you tell we're planting a garden this year. Again, what are some things in our garden that you're really excited for?
Peas.
Lettuce. We eat a lot of salad.
Because the lettuce we grow is really good in the salads we make.
What did you see here today at the farmer's market that looks really fun and delicious? What was the first thing you had to eat today at the market?
A McDonald's muffin.
A McDonald's muffin, yes. All right. And when you get if some people don't like to buy leeks, they can be a little bit expensive, more expensive than an onion. So in the recipe, you could use an onion, regular yellow onion. And also you could use ramps. Ramps look like really small leeks, but they're more like garlicky than oniony, and they have a really nice, strong flavor, but they're wild. And they're only here for a really short amount of time, kind of like the asparagus. So that's a really fun thing to put in the soup, or to garnish the soup with that. And one thing with these chives is the stems that have the flowers attached are a little tougher than the other ones. Do you want to pull off the rest of the flowers? Oh, good, because we're going to need that for our garnish. I'm just going to chop these up for our chev. A lot of them? Well, that's good. So it'll make a really nice, beautiful garnish for everything. And the chev was a little firm, so what I did is I added a little bit of olive oil to it. Well, that's okay. You can just squish them right off. A little bit of olive oil to it, and it was sitting in the sun, so it softened up really nicely, because you never want to put a really cold garnish on hot soup just because the temperature changes between the two aren't as satisfying. So I've got that nice and whipped up. I'm going to send this over here. I'm going to turn this on high and really get it going. And I did note on the recipe that you can freeze this soup. It freezes pretty well, but you lose a lot of the color. It won't be such a bright green anymore, and that's typically with any sort of like green soup that has maybe spinach or asparagus in it. If it freezes, it's all colored. We left the microphone on, or maybe not. Did you get any soda? Did you get any of the blood orange soda? Did you want to try some? All right. Sure.
Got two left.
I better try it too. I'm going to add a little bit of dried thyme to the soup. That's not on the recipe, but I like a little bit of the dried thyme in this soup. You could also, if you had a lot of fresh herbs around, you could add the fresh herbs to the stock, because that'll flavor your stock really nicely. Yes, that'd be great, because that is compostable. Because remember, we compost everything here at the Mill City Farmers Market, so all of your cups and containers that you get from everybody, all the vendors that their delicious food they're serving, make sure you get them put into the compost container. And we do have volunteers to kind of help you, because it's kind of confusing to have all these different bins for garbage. But we do compost everything here. Oh, Josephine wants to take the soda home. It must be good, huh? It's good. And I also want to mention next week we have a really fabulous guest that's going to be joining us. Amy Birdsall, grower at the Minnesota State Fair, is going to be joining me on stage. She's going to be here to answer all of your questions about plants, when to plant things, can you plant your tomato plants that you buy here yet today, and how to harvest things, and some other questions she can answer for you. And also talk about how much work it takes to make the state fair look so beautiful and amusing with all their plants and flowers every year. So she'll be joining us next week at 10 o'clock for the demonstration, and we're going to be making a rhubarb chutney next week. So if anybody buys any rhubarb this week and they're not quite sure what else to do with it other than making crisp or pie, we've got a really fabulous recipe for you next week. So how are you doing on those chive flowers? Good. All right. And the soup is just starting to boil, but I don't want it to boil for too long. And also, if you're making any type of stock, I don't like to bring the stock to a high boil either, because it can get kind of cloudy, especially if you're making a chicken stock. Vegetable stock doesn't matter quite as much, but I don't like to boil things for too long. Although my cooktop burner over here burns very hot, so it's probably going to come to a boil pretty quickly. And the way that we're going to puree this, you could use a regular stand-up blender at home if you have it. We're going to use an immersion blender today, and I don't know if everybody's seen one of these before, but these are really fantastic because you can blend it right in the pot. You don't have to transfer it to a blender and then transfer it to something else. It doesn't get quite as smooth as if you put it in a regular blender, but I didn't want to lug my big blender here today. So we've got that, and then Josephine will help me with that once we get the soup going. So did anybody buy any of the morel mushrooms today? Did anybody notice how big they are this year? They're huge. It's amazing to see. Oh, you probably don't want to play with the blade. That's really, really sharp. I'll let you use it when we get to that point, but we should probably be very careful. So let's talk a little bit more about the fruit and vegetable program that you have at school. You know, maybe what we could do today is we could look around here, and I always encourage people with kids to give them, you know, $5 to buy a vegetable or something at the market that they'd like to try. Because I think it's really important, if kids get to make that own choice, get to pick out something that they think looks really good and maybe really fun to work with. So if I did that to you today, what would you pick out? Have you seen any delicious, and not mini donuts?
Carrots.
Carrots. That is a good one. Oh, we're boiling over here, so I'm going to turn that down. And this is a pretty mild tasting soup. So there is a little bit of garlic in it, but you probably don't want to put too much garlic in the soup because that can overpower the flavor. How's that working? You want to add a little bit more salt to it? I'm going to pour it in your hands. And I do like to salt soups and sauces in stages and taste it because, you know, as I say, you can always add more, you can't take it out. One trick you could try, if it does get too salty, put half of a peeled potato in your soup, and potato kind of absorbs salt. So that'll mellow out the saltiness a little bit. somebody get me a tasting spoon, please? My lovely assistant will. Also, too, I noticed that we've got some really fabulous books and authors here who are signing books over in the corner down here. Another great Mother's Day gift that you can get one of these books and get it signed for her, so that's always a fun thing. Hopefully it won't melt on me, this kind of soup spoon. So I'm just going to check for salt, but be careful, don't get too close. I think, Josephine, we should add a little bit more soup and a little bit of fresh. Can you do some pepper in there for me, please? Just a few twists. 1, 2, 3 is good. Is any coming out? Doesn't look like that much came out. Oh, there we go. There we go, a little bit of that. And then I think we need a little bit more salt added to it. Yes, you can stir it, but I'm going to give you a little bit more salt. And this is just a regular sea salt that I like to use. If you want to stir that. Alright, so we're going to wait for that to get going. Does anybody have any questions at all today? Yes. Fennel seeds. Yes, you know, I didn't have any here today. It was the one thing I forgot to get in my pantry. I love using fennel seeds and things. The one thing about fennel seeds is they aid digestion. If you ever go to an Indian restaurant and they have those candied fennel seeds, that is just to kind of aid the digestion, and so I also like that flavor too. A little bit of the fennel flavor seems to go a long way with the seeds. So I'm going to check one of my potatoes and see if they're getting soft yet. I got a feeling they're probably not quite soft, but I've got little fluffy cotton bits all over. Did anybody notice it's snowing out there with all the cotton in the sky? Do you want to try a potato? Did you see that? Ooh, it's hot. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have to let this cool a little bit. And actually, I need to let it cool a bit quicker. I'm going to put it in some cold water. So we'll take that bin and get some cold water in it, and we'll just put it in there to cool it down. I did kind of feel a little bit bad buying up a bunch of Pam's asparagus today, because I think she's the only vendor here who has asparagus, but she told me she has a lot. So I didn't feel bad buying it up, and so if you haven't gotten your asparagus from her today yet, and really when you have local asparagus that's picked within hours of you purchasing it, it's really different. So I think now we've been getting a lot of asparagus from California, some from Wisconsin, but the local asparagus is so good. Does anybody grow asparagus or have asparagus in their gardens? Just not. You know, when I was younger, we used to get in the car after dinner and drive around in a lot of rural areas in the ditches. There's wild asparagus everywhere. So we used to get bags of asparagus that we would pick and forage. And now it's kind of hard to pay as much as you have to for asparagus. But all right, yeah, actually let's put it right up here, because we're going to want to puree it. Get this up. And if you're at home and you want this to cool off a little bit faster, you can put it in an ice bath in your sink. It's going to hold it up so it doesn't melt the bottom before it gets cool. And I think we're going to need to take out a little bit of the water here. Just bobbing around a bit. All right, Josephine, if you want to get on up here. Hold on to this for just a moment. We're going to have to turn that off. Oh, no. You have to. Oh, yeah, tires too. Alright, so we'll bring this back up here.
Oh, baby.
Oh, we didn't talk about how you washed your hands before you helped me cook and how important that is. It's very important, isn't it?
Why is the water right there?
Because I spilled a little bit of water here. Okay. Stir that up.
It's hot.
How's it look? And you know, actually, if you were to cut up the things fairly small like I did here, you don't need to puree it. You could leave it be a chunky soup like this. You could add some white beans to it. A can of white beans would be really good. You could add a little bit of brown rice to it. You can add some lovely wheat berries from Sunrise Flour Mill over here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and puree this. And Josephine, let's put this down here and turn off the microphone. Okay, so this is plugged in. What you want to do, Josephine, is remember not to pull it up while you got it on, okay? So we're going to keep it down. Yeah, see what will happen if you pull it up too high?
Let me try.
So I'm going to hold the pan down. So it's going to bob around a little bit. There you go. Oh, keep it down in there. Yep, you're doing good.
It's stuck to the bottom.
It does stuck to the bottom a little bit. Do you want me to do the rest? No, you're doing good. Yep, and keep down in there. Looking good. You have to sneeze? Don't sneeze in the food. That wasn't a sneeze. Yep, keep it down in there. Very good, very good. Here, I'm just going to finish it up really quick. How's it looking?
It looks really. It used to have big chunks, but now the big chunks are big chunks.
That's right. And you know, I think you'll probably even like it because if you don't like asparagus, you can't really see that it's in there. All right, so we're going to get this sampled out to you here shortly.
The big mommy's turned into the little babies.
All right. Take that apart there. All right, so we're going to get this sampled out to you. I will leave a few without the goat cheese or the goat cheese garnish just in case people don't want to have that on there for any reason. So we'll get these sampled out to you. Again, I wanted to mention next week, bring your plant questions. If you've got any questions about when to plant your tomatoes, where the best place is. Did we turn off the So yeah, bring plant questions. Next week we're going to have Amy Birdsall, grower at the Minnesota State Fair, joining us on stage here for a bit with answering your questions and talking about all the great plants at the State Fair. So again, I want to thank everybody. Thank you to Jillian, my new kitchen manager. Thank you to Josephine, my lovely daughter. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I think she's going to drink the rest of the soda back here. She could probably push the car home after that. Yep, we'll put that. So with that, I want to thank everybody so much for being here today. Again, first day at the Mill City farmers market.